everybody, this is Ben from the Campus Rec Center, and today we're going to be going over how to perform a push-up. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows what a push-up is, but in case you don't, it's a great exercise for targeting the chest, shoulders, and triceps. And in this video, I'm going to go over how to actually perform the push-up correctly, as well as some common form errors I see, how to correct those form errors, and also how to include push-ups in your workout program, including the sets, reps, and everything like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. I want to go ahead and mention something real quick with form, and that is the concept of shoulder packing. So shoulder packing basically refers to taking your shoulders, bringing them back, squeezing your scapula, and retracting your scapula. A great cue I like for shoulder packing is that if you could imagine trying to pinch a walnut in between your shoulder blades, that's the kind of position you want to have your shoulders in. So you don't want to have your shoulders rounded forward, rather you want to go ahead and pinch them back. And like I said, that's going to go ahead and protect the shoulder joints. So when it comes down to the hand position for push-ups, I usually like to go slightly wider than shoulder width and plant my hands down nice and firmly. And I try to imagine like I'm gripping the ground, and that's basically going to go ahead and protect my wrist joint as well. So with our shoulders packed and our hands planted on the ground, then we could go ahead and we're going to go ahead and stick our feet behind us. And this right here is going to be pretty much the starting position of the push-up. So you can see here that my core is nice and tight, my back is straight, and my shoulders are nice and packed. So this is exactly what we're going to be looking for to perform the push-up. And from here, we're basically going to go ahead and lower our body right down to about a fist height above the ground, and then we're going to push right up. So as you can see, the push-up is really simple and straightforward, but now I want to go ahead and talk about some common errors I see in technique, as well as how to correct those errors. The first error I see with the push-ups really is when folks, sometimes they'll go into the push-up position, and when they start to lower down, they will flare their elbows out, kind of out to the sides like this. But we don't want to do that because that's not going to be good for our shoulder joints. We want to make sure that we are keeping our shoulders squeezed behind us, and also try to keep them tucked in close to our sides when we're actually coming down to do the push-up. And that's pretty much the fix right there. Just make sure you are keeping your shoulders packed and tucking them into your sides, and that's how you can fix that error. So another error I see with the push-up, I think, is when folks get really fatigued, and when they're doing the push-up, they have a tendency to either stick their butt up really high to try to rest, or sometimes they'll let their butt droop down, they'll let their butt and their hips droop down just like this, and neither of those positions are ideal for what we're trying to do with the push-up. Remember, we're trying to target our chest, shoulders, and triceps when we perform this exercise, so we want to limit any unnecessary movement. So I would say that the way that you're going to correct both of these errors in technique is going to be pretty much the same for when your butt is sticking up in the air and when it's sticking down, and that is just remembering to keep your core braced. So what I mean by braced is that if you can imagine kind of tensing your core, tensing your stomach, this might sound kind of graphic, but if you can imagine like someone was going to kind of punch you in the stomach, your gut instinct would be to tighten up your core to resist the blow from the punch that you get. And I don't want anybody getting punched or anything, but that's what you kind of want to think about, not only when you're doing the push-ups, but when you're doing other exercises as well. So keeping your core braced, keeping it nice and tight, that's going to ensure that your low back is not drooping down and your butt is not sticking up in the air. So really, for both of those, just remember to keep your core braced, keep your back flat, and you should be good to go. Now, if you are starting to stick your butt up or droop down a little bit when you're getting a little fatigued, I would probably end this set right there. Go ahead and rest for a little bit, because you want to go ahead and make sure that when you're actually performing the exercise, you're performing with correct technique. And if you're too fatigued that you can't use correct technique anymore, then maybe go ahead and rest for a little bit, jump in the next set in a minute or so. Something else I see a lot with the push-up is when folks, sometimes when they're doing the push-up, they stick their neck up and they look up toward the ceiling, or they look all the way down and tuck it in. Now, what that's going to do is just going to take your cervical spine out of alignment, and it's not going to keep your back flat like we want. So what that looks like in practice would be like this right here, coming down to do the push-up and looking up. That could put a lot of strain on your cervical spine, as well as tucking your chin all the way down. So when we're doing push-ups, we do want to focus on keeping our head neutral, and the way you would check to see if your head is neutral is really simple and easy. What you could do is pretty much just take your finger and press it against the bottom of your chin, and that right there will be a neutral head position. and it will also help maintain a neutral position in your back. So those are pretty much the biggest things I see when it comes down to form breaking down or sloppy technique. As long as you just remember the things I said, just keeping your core braced, keeping your shoulders packed, keeping your elbows close into your sides, and keeping your head neutral. I know that sounds like a whole laundry list of things, but the more you practice doing the push-ups, the better you're gonna get. If you're watching this video and you said, yeah, Ben, that sounds awful fantastic, I wanna go ahead and do push-ups right away, but the only problem is I can't quite do it yet. And I would say, no problem. There are some regressions that you can go ahead and use to go ahead and build up your strength and work your way up to a regular push-up. What I would recommend doing is, before you even do any of this, is grabbing a towel or a yoga mat or something like that to go ahead and protect your knees, because the first thing we're gonna actually do is a knee push-up. So what that basically looks like is kind of having the towel nice and flat. We're just gonna simply put our knees right here on the towel or the mat or whatever you have, and we're pretty much gonna go through the same procedure as a regular push-up, except we're taking our lower body out of the equation. So with this, we're going to get in the same position. Shoulders are still going to be packed, hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart, core braced, and again, instead of having our legs straight, we're going to keep our knees bent, and you can either keep your feet on the ground or you can lift them up a little bit, totally up to you. And then from this position, we're pretty much going to go ahead and lower right until we get to, remember, just a fist's height above the ground, and just like that. So that's pretty much it. Knee push-ups are a great way to go ahead and build up that upper body strength and endurance, and you'll get to regular push-ups in no time. So if you've already been doing knee push-ups for a while, or that's just not your style, another great option is to do push-ups against a wall. So what that's going to look like is pretty much an identical body position to being on the ground, except being on the ground, you're actually going to be doing it against the wall. And the theory behind this is that it's going to require a lot less upper body strength be able to manage pushing against a wall than it is actually doing the push-ups regularly with your feet behind you. So the knee push-ups and doing push-ups against a wall are two great exercises that you can use to work your way up to doing regular push-ups. Now, if push-ups are already a piece of cake for you and you said that's way too easy breezy, well, I got another option for you as well. Actually, I got a few. Just sticking with regular body weight, some ways that you can make the regular push-up more challenging is by first just manipulating your hand position. And what I mean by that is, if you remember for the regular push-ups, I did suggest putting your hands slightly outside shoulder width. Well, if you do want to make it more challenging, you can go ahead and bring your arms within shoulder width, and that's going to put a lot more emphasis on the triceps. Or you can even move your arms outside shoulder width, and that's going to put a lot more emphasis on the shoulders. What's great with even all of those variations plus regular push-ups, if you want to make those challenging too, you can just simply manipulate the tempo. So instead of doing push-ups really quickly, that's going to look like lowering your body to the ground really slow and then pushing up really quickly. So those are just a couple simple ways to go ahead and make your regular push-ups more challenging. But if you do have some extra accessories, or if you want to get a little fancy, you can also add a weight vest, or take a backpack and fill it up with some books or whatever you have laying around the house, and that could be some extra weight, extra resistance that you could throw on your back, and that'll make regular body weight push-ups more challenging because you're going to be using extra resistance. Another option is also doing like decline push-ups. So that's going to be like having your feet up on a couch or a ledge, or really anything that's just going to be above ground level, and your torso is going to be in a decline position, and that's going to put a lot more emphasis on the lower chest, and plus it's a lot more challenging than a regular push-up. So that's pretty much everything I have for how to perform the push-up correctly, as well as regressions, progressions, and technique and everything like that. So next thing we're going to talk about is how to actually include push-ups in your workout program. So my recommendations are going to be a little bit different whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. But to start off with, we'll go with beginners. Now, if this is your first time doing push-ups or anything like that, I would probably recommend starting with just 2 to 3 sets and doing as many push-ups as you can, stopping right when your form starts to break down. So if you do find yourself where your butt starts to stick up, or your butt's sticking down, or you're moving all over the place, I would probably stop your set right there. And if you remember, go ahead and jot the amount of reps that you did down, so that way next time, either next set or next time you do push-ups, you can go ahead and look back at the reps that you got and try to get a little bit better next time. That is probably how I would do it for beginners. Now, when I say beginners, I pretty much mean everybody who has been going to the gym consistently for less than a year, or people who have maybe been going to the gym but not following a structured exercise program. I would probably count them as beginners. So if you find yourself in that category, probably start with 2 to 3 sets, as many reps as you could do, and work your way up from there. Now, if you are in intermediate and you've already been working out for a couple years, I would probably add weight, like the weight vest or the backpack or something like that. And instead of going to absolute failure, I would probably train those more like in a typical hypertrophy range. So, think like 3 to 5 sets of like 8 to 12 reps. That's probably what I would recommend if you're doing like weighted push-ups. Otherwise, if you're just doing body weight, I would treat it the same and go till failure. And then lastly, if you are an advanced athlete and you want to do push-ups, well, I imagine you already kind of know how to include push-ups in your workout program, but I would probably recommend following a similar training style that I suggested for the intermediates, but maybe adding another set or 2 sets, just really increasing the volume. But whether you are a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, honestly, it really doesn't matter too much because the same rules apply. You should always be striving to use proper technique, using good form, and pushing yourself, trying to make sure that you're trying to get a little bit better next time. So that's pretty much everything I have for the push-up. Again, I am Ben from the Campus Rec Center, and thank you so much for watching the video. Have a great day.